Okay, so hello class, welcome back. So in this recording, we're gonna take a look at section 3.3, which is the measure of central tendencies and then the measures of dispersion. But now we're gonna focus on the grouped data. Yeah, so we're gonna focus on the grouped data. So how we're gonna calculate the mean, how we're gonna calculate the standard deviation or variance when we have a grouped data. So many times the data that we have access to has already been summarized in a frequency distribution, such as histograms or some tables for grouped data. So even though we cannot get the exact values of the mean or standard deviation without the raw data, so these measurements can be approximated using the provided formula. So we're gonna take a look at the formula that we use it to approximate the mean from a group with data. So we have two calculations, right? So the first one gonna be the population means mu, and the second formula is gonna be the sample mean x bar. So even though that we have the two formula, but the idea is still the same, right? So those two formula is similar. So whenever we do the calculation for the mean or population mean specifically, is equal to the summation of xi times fi divided by the summation of fi. So which means that this is the summation notation. So we're going to take x1 times f1 plus x2 times f2 plus x3 times f3 and dot, dot, dot. We're going to repeat that for the rest of the data. We're going to take that total divided by the sum of all of the frequencies f1 plus f2 plus f3 plus fn. So in this calculation, xi or x1, x2, x3 is going to be the midpoint. So xi is going to be the midpoint. I hope that you can remember how we calculate the midpoint from the previous section, right? So xi is the midpoint of, so xi is the midpoint or values of the I class, and then fi is the frequencies of the class. And then n is going to be the numbers of classes that we have. So that's going to be the formula to calculate or to approximate the population mean from a grouped data. So similar idea, we're going to do the sample mean. So the sample mean x bar is equal to the summation of xi times fi divided by the summation of fi. So which means that we're going to do x1 times f1 plus x2 times f2 plus x3 times f3 and then dot, dot, dot for the rest of the tables. Divide that total by the sum of f1, f2, f3, f4, and then fn. So once again, in this calculation, xi is going to be the midpoint for the class, and then fi is going to be the frequency for the class. Okay, so that's going to be the formula to calculate the mean from a grouped data. Okay, so then let's give it a try for these formulas of the approximate the mean from a grouped data. So the National Survey of Student Engagement is a survey that asks first-year students at liberal arts college how much time they spend preparing for a class each week. Okay, so this is the result that we have. This is the amount of hours a student get ready for a class from 1 to 5, 6 to 10, and etc. And then we have the frequencies also. So now based on this given table, unfortunately, we don't have access to the original data because this data has been summarized using the classes. Now we're gonna use this table to approximate the mean, okay? So before we can get the answer for the mean or the approximation for the mean, you need to get the midpoint. And I hope that you can remember how we do the midpoint from the previous section. It's equal to the sum of the two consecutive lower class and then divided by 2. So the midpoint for the first class, I'm going to take the lower class for the first class 1 plus the next lower class of 6, and then we divide that answer by 2. So 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 divided by 2 can I give you 3.5. Okay. Now similar idea for the next class, we have the lower class is 6 plus the next lower class is 11, and we divide that by 2. So that's going to be 17, and 17 divided by 2 is going to give you 8.5. Okay. So that's going to be 8.5. And similar idea, we can complete for the rest of the table, right? So 11 plus 16 divided by 2. So going to be 11 plus 16 is 27 divided by 2. So going to be 13.5. Okay. Now we can do for the rest of the table, right? So now we're going to do 16 plus 21 divided by 2. So 16 plus 21 is gonna be 37. 37 divided by 2 is gonna be 18.5. Okay, we're gonna keep going. So we're gonna get 21 plus 26 divided by 2. 21 plus 26 is 47. 47 divided by 2 is gonna be 23.5. And the next one we will do is 26 plus 31 divided by 2. So that's gonna be 57. So gonna be 28.5. And the last one is gonna be 31 plus what? The next lower class limit should be 36, right? Divided by 2. So 31 plus 36 gonna be 67. So gonna be 33.5. Okay, so we just calculate the midpoint. Okay, so we need to get the midpoint. Now, after we got the midpoint, now we're gonna take the midpoint, we multiply with the frequency to get that product, right? So gonna be 3.5 times it by 130. Okay. We might need a calculator. This is a big number. So let's see what is the answer then. So we're gonna do 3.5 times it by 130. Making sure that we input it correctly, right? Input the numbers correctly. 3.5 times it by 130. 455. Okay, so now the next one is going to be 8.5 times it by 250. Okay. Now 8.5 times it by 250. So going to be 2125. The number gets very large, right? So now going to be 13.5 times it by 230. 13.5 times it by 230. 3105. Now, similar idea, we're going to do the next one, see 18.5 times it by 180. 18.5 times it by 180. 3330. And then the next one we have going to be 23.5 times it by 100. Okay. 23.5 times it by 100. It's going to be 2350. Okay, it's almost there. 2 more to go. Now I'm going to do 28.5 times it by 60. So it's going to be 28.5 times it by 60. 1710. And the last calculation we have from the list is going to be 33.5 times it by 50. Oops, 0.5. Oops, 0.5. Times it by 50. 33.5 times it by 50, gonna be 1675. Okay. Now we need to get the total for all of this calculation right here, right? What's gonna be the numerator? So the summation of xi times fi, yeah. So that's gonna give me the summation of xi's and fi. Let me put that notation right here. So this is gonna be the summation of xi times it by fi. Okay, so let's work out this calculation. Then we need to get the total of this. And we also need to get the summation for all of the frequencies also. Yeah, so let's do that too, summation. Yeah, so we need to get a summation of fi's also. Yeah. Okay, so let's do the two summation then. I'm gonna do the summation for the frequency first then. So we're gonna get 130 plus 250 plus 230 plus 180 plus 100 plus 60 plus 50. Oh, it's 1,000 even. Yeah, so. Excuse me. Okay, so now we're gonna do the summation for the xi times fi, right? So let's use your calculator to get the answer of this then. So 455 plus 2125 plus 3105 plus 3330 plus 2350 plus 1710 and then plus the 1675. Okay. So the total right here is going to be 14,750. Yeah, so 14,750. Okay. So we just get the answer for the summation of xi times fi. We got a summation for fi already. Now we are ready to plug it in for the calculation of the mean, right? Okay. So now this is going to be approximate the mean right here. So if the question didn't mention this is a population, we assume this is going to be the sample mean. So I'm going to use in the notation to show the sample mean. Yeah. Okay, so the sample mean x bar is equal this. Okay, so the sample mean x bar is equal the division of, on the numerator, we're going to get the summation of xi times fi divided by the summation of fi. Yeah, so the summation of fi. Okay. So that's the formula to approximate the mean from a group with data. Okay. Now let's see what's the answer then. So we have the summation of xi times fi 14,750 divided by the summation of fi is 1,000. Okay. So we're gonna take this number 14,107.50 divided by the summation of fi, which is 1,000. So the answer is gonna be 14.75. That's the approximation for the mean. So 14.75. And then just in case the unit for this answer will be in terms of hour. So we can say that on average, the students spend about 14.75 hours to get ready for a class. Yeah. So based on the given data, we should approximate the mean. Okay. Okay, so far so good. So I hope everyone got the ideas of how we approximate the mean from a group with data, right? So based on the classes, we need to get the midpoint. After we got get the midpoint, we're gonna take the midpoint times it by the frequency. And after that, we're gonna get the summation for all of the xi times fi divided by the summation of fi. So that's gonna be the way that we approximate the mean. So I think that we actually have a shortcut that we might use it on the calculator that can help you to approximate this mean also. Oh, maybe not here. Yes. Okay. So I might show that in the class then later on. Okay. So we just talk about the calculation of the mean, right? So approximate the mean from a group with data. So now there is application that using the ideas of the approximate the mean from a group with data. That's gonna be the weighted mean. So how we gonna using the weighted mean? Based on the ideas of approximate the mean from a group with data, we can calculate the weighted mean. So the weighted mean is x bar w. So x bar is the mean with the extra w. That's gonna be the weighted. So this is the notation for the weighted mean. So the weighted mean x bar w of a variable is founded by x bar w, which is the weighted means equal the summation of wi times xi divided by the summation of wi. So in this calculation, wi is the weight of the i's observation. So wi is the weight of the i's observation, and xi is the values of the observation. Yes, and then the xi is the values of the observation. So we need to know the weight and we need to know the values of the i's observation. Okay, and then we can plug into this formula to approximate the weighted mean. Okay, now let's give it a try for this example number 2. Okay, let's give it a try for example number 2 then. So this person wants to buy something, right? So he combined 1 pound of raisin, 2 pounds of chocolate, and then 1.5 pounds of cashew. The raisin gonna cost him $1.25 per pound. The chocolate's gonna cost him $3.25 per pound, and the cashew gonna cost him $5.40 per pound. What's the cost per pound? So the cost per pound, it looks like it's gonna be the ITs of the weighted mean. So how much gonna cost per unit of weight, which is the pound? So I'm gonna use in these ideas, I have to know which one is the weight, which one is the X value, right? So I'm gonna use in this table to summarize this question then. So we have raisin, we have chocolate, and we have the cashew. So I'm gonna use in this table to summarize it then. Okay, so let's see. This is gonna be the raisin. This is gonna be the chocolate. This is gonna be the cashew. Yeah. Okay, so now this is gonna be the weight, and this is gonna be the price. Okay, so I'm gonna use in that table to summarize the question that we have. So what's the weight for raisin then? So he combined 1 pound of raisin, so the weight is gonna be 1 pound for raisin, and he got 2 pounds of chocolate, so that's gonna be 2 pounds of chocolate, and he's gonna get 1.5 pounds of the cashew, so that's gonna be the weight. Now, what's the price or the values of the ice observation? So for the raisin, gonna be $1.25. For the chocolate, it's gonna be $3.25, and then for the cashew, gonna be $5.40. Okay, so now we are ready. I'm gonna just look like copy that formula, the weighted mean right here, right? So we can use in the formula the weighted mean. Okay, not that one. So this is gonna be x bar W, right? Is equal, based on the formula that we got, is equal a fraction, right? And on the numerator, we're gonna get the summation of x. Wi is xi, yeah, so it's gonna be Wi times it by xi. So it's gonna be Wi times it by xi divided by the summation of Wi. Okay, divided by the summation of Wi. Okay, so now we're gonna plug in the formulas, right, everyone? Okay, so I'm gonna take W1 times X1. So W1 is 1 times it by X1 is gonna be 1.25 plus W2, 2 pounds times it by 3.25. And then W3 is 1.5 times it by 5.40. And then we divide that total. Okay, forget the plus right here, addition. And then divided by the summation for all of the weight. So the weight is going to be 1 plus 2 plus 1.5. Okay. So now we're going to use a calculator to work out this calculation, right? So let's give it a try then. So on the numerators, I'm going to do 1 times it by 1.25 plus 2 times it by 3.25 plus 1.5 times it by 5.40 or 5.4. Yeah, 1.5 times it by 5.40. We divide that total by the sum of 1 plus 2 plus 1.5. Okay, so I'm gonna do a single entry for this calculation. Let's see what's gonna be the price per pound. Yeah. Okay, so gonna be about 5.52. So that's gonna be the price of 3.52. Sorry, 3.52. So the price gonna be about 3.52. Okay, so $3.52 per pound. Yeah. 1.125, 1 pounds of raisin for 125, 2 pounds of chocolate, 3.25, and then 1.5 of 540. Okay, divided by the totals of, okay. So that's going to be about 5.52. So this is going to be the cost per pound. So this is an application of this weighted means or the grouped, the estimation of the mean from a grouped data. Okay. Now, so another question that we might give it a try to using the ideas of the approximation of the mean then, or the weighted mean, okay? So compute Amy grades if an exam count for 50% of the grade, the quiz is gonna be 20% of the grade, the homework is 25% of the grade, participation will be 5% of the grade. If Amy has a score of 83 on her exams, 87 on her quizzes, 98% on her homework, and 100% on participation. Okay. So let's input the tables again, right? So let's see how many categories we got. So that's gonna be the exams, quizzes, homework, participation. Okay. So there's gonna be exams, quizzes, homework, participations. Okay. Now what's gonna be the weight? And what's gonna be the score, right? In this case, what she got, the score, right? The weight and the score, right? Okay. So for the exam, it's gonna be 50%. Okay, so the exam gonna be 50%. The quiz is gonna be about 20% of her grade, and then the homework is 25% of the grade. Participation is gonna be 5%. Okay. Okay, so those are the weight. Now for the test or the exam, she got 83%. So she got 83% for these categories of the exam. And then for the homework, for the quizzes, she got 87% on the quizzes. For the homework, she got 98%, very good. And then for participation, she got 100%. Okay. So that's gonna be the table summarize this question. So now we are ready to calculate the weighted mean to approximate the grade for the student. Okay. Okay, so now let's take a look at the formula. So on the numerator, I'm gonna take the weight times the score right here, right? So I'm gonna take 50 times it by 83 plus 20 times it by 87 plus 25 times it by 98 plus 5 times it by 100. And we divide it total by the sum of the weight. So the sum of the weight is 50 plus 20 plus 25 plus 5. Now let's use in your calculator to estimate or to calculate this calculation then, okay? Okay, so now let's input the calculation. Then we're gonna get 50. Oh, I need to get the parenthesis. I did. So 50 times it by 83 plus 20 times it by 87 plus 25 times it by 98 plus 50 times 83, 20 times 87, 25 times 98 plus 5 times it by 100. And then we divide it total by the sum of the weight. So it's gonna be 50 plus 20 plus 25 and plus 5. Okay, so 88.4%. Yeah, so it's gonna be 88.4. This is gonna be in terms of percent. Okay. So what's gonna be the grade? So this student got 88.4%. So based on the common scale that we got, this student will get a B, right? So 88.4%, which is a B. Okay. So this is the second application or the second example related with the mean of a group with data. Yes, or the weighted mean. Okay. So once again, for this recording, we just talk about how we approximate the mean from a group with data. Yes, and we complete the 2 practice questions. Okay. Okay, so this is the first half of section 3.3. I will stop the recording at this point so you can try some homework question related with the approximate the mean from a group with data. I will see you next time for the next recording.